Hello, I'm Alex.
I'm James.
And I'm Dan.
We're the Ragamuffins, and this is episode 31 of the Ragamuffin Music Podcast. It's a place for us to talk about the music we love. Every month we get together, we talk about the latest news, music and trends in alternative music.
On this episode, we'll be reviewing new singles from Beartooth, Holding Absence and more, as well as a brand new EP from Better Lovers.
And later on, we'll be discussing our favourite albums of the year so far.
But first, some news.
Some news.
Judas Priest have announced they are replacing Ozzy Osbourne on the lineup for Power Trip Festival in California, which takes place on the 6th to the 8th of October. Ozzy removed himself from the lineup, stating that his body just isn't ready to perform just yet. He still wants to return to the stage with the hope of returning in 2024. Polaris have spoken about how they are moving forward after the sad and untimely passing of Ryan Sue last month. They've expressed on how they'll be continuing and still releasing their third studio album, Fatalism, on September 1st, as well as honouring all upcoming tour dates. Our thoughts are with the family, friends and the band for this tragic loss. They have also been announced as part of this tour dates, they will be supporting While She Sleeps and Bury Tomorrow on this big European run that sees them headline places such as Alexandra Palace, which we'll be at. So, a bloody good gig there in the future. Demi Lovato spoke to Jose Mangin of SiriusXM and talked about some artists she would like to collaborate with after talking about her love of heavy music. Lovato mentioned always wanting to have the chance to work with Corey Taylor, as well as mentioning Knock Loose on her wish list.
I think a couple of members, or maybe just one, I can't remember who, but someone within the Knock Loose camp acknowledged it on Twitter. So that could actually be...
Nox Lovato.
That could be real. That could actually happen. I'd fucking love it. Good for her.
Random, but did you know Margot Robbie is a fan of heavy music as well?
Yeah, I've
Bloody
seen
loves
like...
it, doesn't she?
So, someone sent it to me that she did an interview like on Graham Norton or something, where she was talking about Slipknot and getting recognised as someone from Neighbours mostly at a Slipknot concert, which is mad.
I saw an interview she did with, I think it was Nick Grimshaw on Radio 1, and she said that she likes Bullet for My Valentine and Thrice.
Interesting. Wouldn't have suspected it.
So I like those bands too. When's the wedding?
Have any of us seen Barbie yet? I mean, I have. I'm asking if either of you
No,
have
I
seen
have not.
Barbie yet.
No, I haven't.
Finally, Landmarks have announced the debut of their brand new festival, Marks Fest, which is taking place from November 10th to 12th in Marseille, France. They've said that the festival is a goal of mixing sporting competition and culture, promoting the local Marseille scene, and inviting internationally renowned groups. Early bird tickets have already sold out, with 20 bands being announced so far, including Landmarks, of course, but also with Paleface Swiss, Resolve, Glassbone, and many, many more. You got something to say, Alex? You're
I was
smiling.
about to say something in French as well. C'est incroyable. No, that sounds very exciting. I'm curious to hear about the blending of sports. What is that, like Mosh Olympics?
They've not said exactly. That would be quite fun. I don't know. I imagine maybe some skateboarding. That's the way I'm picturing it, potentially.
Yeah, skateboarding's pretty big in France, isn't it?
So I'm very interested.
Or they've just got like the Marseille football team there.
FIFA Street on PS2 had a level set in Marseille.
Yeah, I think it did.
It did. So that's interesting.
Maybe be playing a bit.
Oh,
of FIFA
maybe we'll
Street.
go there. That'd be sick.
I'm very intrigued by it. I want to see who else gets added, and it's very much on my radar. So a little holiday in France could happen in November. And that is your news.
I'm just thinking about FIFA Street now.
Yeah, so I've got the soundtrack in my head now.
Yeah.
Paddy Kenny.
Excellent. Right.
Who's your starter goalkeeper? Paddy Kenny, or who else was it? It wasn't Casillas.
No,
Was it the It was the Portuguese guy, wasn't it?
Yeah. And like
Ricardo.
Ricardo, yeah, and Rivaldo was like an early. Was Rivaldo?
He was like the first
starting
legend player
yeah.
you could get, I think.
Crespo was an early one
Yeah.
as well. Come on, James, join in.
What a game!
The thing is, I remember playing it, and I remember us having it on PS2, but I can't remember the players.
Game breaker. That was always sick when you get a
yeah.
nice game breaker.
I was like when
yeah.
it went slow motion for the game break, and you just sky it.
Yeah, oh fuck. There's nothing, or you like just twat it into one of their defenders.
Yeah.
You're like, for fuck's sake, I'm just
Remember like
wasting.
OTT?
Yep,
Top
OTT,
of the world.
top of the world.
The Thinker?
Pananana, the Thinker. Come and get it. Tornado was one that went off the wall. Anyway, that's enough about
If you're
FIFA
listening
Street.
to this now, what was your favourite FIFA Street move?
In
Comment down
unrelated
below.
news, subscribe to our new FIFA Street podcast channel. That's coming soon.
And our playthrough channel.
No, playthrough channel. Should we talk about last episode's album, Rex?
No, I think we
Let's
should
do
talk about FIFA Street.
Well, I'd love to, but let's get back on track. James, what did you recommend?
I recommended Lamb of God, Ashes of the Wake.
This album's just fantastic, isn't it? It's not my favourite Lamb of God album. That's obviously Sacrament.
Knew that.
But it was nice to fully immerse in a different one for a change. Because the thing is, they actually, I feel like with Lamb of God, to people who have listened, like me and you, James, who've listened to them for a very long time, you realise that every album is actually quite unique.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it was just nice to get fully immersed in a different realm or different era of this band. Just fucking slaps.
I knew you were
to
so
sing as well.
familiar with Sacrament that
Yeah.
I needed to go a bit diverse, a bit different. I knew you knew some of the tracks on this already. Daniel.
See, I come into this one as someone that's not really much of a fan of kind of this style of metal music. Someone that's never really been that into Lamb of God. So I was quite open-minded going into it, and then straight away, the first track, Laid to Rest. I know this one. I've heard this. Don't know where I've heard it, but I know it, and I love it.
Good.
And then later on, Now You've Got Something to Die For. I know this one.
Tune.
Maybe it's a Doghouse thing. I don't know. But
Laid to Rest could be a Doghouse
Laid to Rest
thing,
could
but
be.
Now
I'm
You've Got Something to
surprised
Die
if Now You've Got Something
For.
to Die For, but you may have probably heard that from
Maybe
you playing
that's,
it over time.
but that's not
yeah,
even
quite
a,
possibly.
because Laid to Rest has a music video, so that could have been on.
Now You've Got Something to Die For
Kerrang or
isn't
something.
a music video one, but it's a big one
Just a
live.
banger, yeah. I don't
So
know.
like
That's
it
a
does
weird-
get played a fair bit.
I'm pretty sure Omerta as well. I'm sure I've heard
Yeah.
that somewhere. But again, I don't know where I've heard these songs
Are
from.
you like a closet?
Maybe
Lamb
I
of God
am.
fan,
Maybe I've been listening to Lamb of God without knowing. Maybe you know, I go to sleep with Spotify on sometimes. Maybe it's going onto Spotify radio and just chucking Lamb of God at me, and I'm taking these songs in my
Yeah,
sleep.
yeah.
Who knows?
Like a sleep.
But-
Who knows?
The point I'm trying to make is, I was pleasantly surprised. Really enjoyed it. Surprised by how much I knew, and with it being like a relatively older album as well. Sort of thinking to current bands like Harriet, for example, that have clearly taken some inspiration from bands like Lamb of God. So, really cool. I liked it.
I'm pleasantly surprised.
I'm well happy, yeah. Nice one. What did you recommend us, Dan?
I recommended Bob Villain, The Price of Life.
You did indeed. I absolutely adored it. It was so much fun. I was hooked from by the time the first chorus of Wicked and Bad hit, I was like, I get it. Don't know what it is, but I get it. It's a really exciting blend of grime and punk. I feel like that's the only way to describe it, really. But every song was sick.
Drum and bass. chucked
Drum
in
and
there as
bass.
well.
It went through that was the thing that was interesting, is like with a lot of modern punk or like post-punk, it can get a bit repetitive and a bit tedious. This album went through so many different styles and soundscapes, and like a song like Health is Wealth being on the same album as a song like GDP was really, really cool. And in fact, Health is Wealth is probably actually one of my favourite songs off the whole album. I really, really enjoyed it. And it was made even more enjoyable by the fact that we saw them twice at Trees this month. So
Yeah, that's mainly why I wanted to recommend it. I think I mentioned that at the point of recommendation as well. It's one that I wanted to listen to as well. So I think it goes without saying, I echo exactly what Alex is saying. Like, I just loved all of it. The mix of different genres in there, the energy behind it, some of the sort of issues and points that it raises throughout as well. And then sort of to listen to it in preparation of seeing them live twice at Trees. And again, what an amazing pair of sets those were. It sounds like I'm talking about tits.
oh wow!
Just in case we don't put that in, I'll say something else.
No, I think that might go.
That's fine.
And we enjoyed their sets.
What do you think, Jay?
It's interesting because I think I come at this a little bit of two different perspectives of pre-Trees and post-Trees. So pre-Trees definitely wasn't kind of my thing at all. Didn't really enjoy it. Post-Trees, still not absolutely my thing. However, after watching how it is live, I remembered a lot of the songs and they'd stuck with me. And something like Health is Wealth in particular was one of note, just lyrically. Just found myself listening to it quite intently. I mean, a lot of the lyrics in general, just listening to quite intently and really taking it in, which is a very much important part of their music and their style. But that one in particular, I found very interesting, notable, and stood out very strong. And so I can kind of look back at it now slightly differently after watching them, particularly in the Forest, and just seeing how much it went off, but especially from main stage in particular. View it in a different light, and it won't be something I necessarily revisit in my own time. However, they've become a band of a certain kind of caliber, like a bit like a Skindred in a way, where I'm not necessarily, like I say, listening to it out my own time, but if I'm going to see they're on a live bill and I've got time and it's happening, I'm going to go and watch because of the energy, how engaging they are live. It's a performance. It's not just about the music, where some bands are going to stand there, watch them riff. Cool, fantastic, I love this band and I've heard great songs. It's more of an experience, especially watching that tree. So I do highly recommend anyone, if they're touring near you and you like them a little bit, and this is coming from me.
And they are touring soon as well.
Exactly. Look at those dates, go and see them. And if you're going to another festival, because I think they've got a few more they're going to, really recommend, go and watch them. Go and check them out.
Alex, what did you recommend for us?
I recommended Absolute by Kubla Khan, one of my favourite bands at the moment, and I've been obsessed with them since we saw them support Counterparts, and I wanted to get us all excited for their set at Trees. So what do we think?
I thought Absolute was absolutely brilliant. I think the main thing I took away from this album actually was the production on it, like especially on the drums. Like I feel like I'm in the room with that snare. Like every time it hits, you kind of feel it. If you've got if you're listening on like some decent headphones or decent speakers, you just feel it through you, and it's almost the same kind of sound as seeing them live.
Yeah.
Which again, listening to this album in preparation for Trees was just perfect. It kind of, in a way, warned me and made me know what I was in for as well. And I don't know why it's taken us this long to kind of find this band and listen to them, because they're fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
I don't have much more to add to that, to be honest. A very, very enjoyable listen. Again, another set that I've seen them twice now. They've absolutely killed it and getting the recognition they deserve. Another note to the production with it, for an album that came out in the late 2010s, to me it feels like an album coming from the mid-2000s.
Yeah, in the best way.
In a good way. I kind of get an old, like mid-2000s production kind of feel out of it. It feels like nostalgic in a way, and almost paying homage to their own influences they've got from it, which I think like it made me kind of like really warm to it. Just fucking solid. I think solid's just a great description for
that band. Just has everything you want from a hardcore band, really.
Yeah,
like they're heavy, the drums hit hard, the vocals are great, like the breakdowns are amazing, the calls for breakdowns are amazing, and the lyrics and the vocal delivery is just so angry as well, and like it's driving every single word home. Which great hardcore band.
Yeah, baby.
Should we talk about some new music?
New music, that's the best kind of music.
So first of all, we've got Citizen with If You're Lonely.
This was a grower for me. My first listen, I was the song just sort of happened, and I was like, oh, that sort of just passed me by. I wasn't really struck by that. But I felt that actually a little bit with like Glass World, the latest album as well. It was a bit like the first listen, it all sort of glossed over, and then I actually, once I found like the vibe of what was going on, I really sort of sunk into it and really enjoyed it. Same with this one. And it is sort of nice that a band that has like a history of some of the bleakest emo music ever is having fun now.
Yep.
And I feel like that's something we're going to touch on when we talk about Beartooth a bit later. Like, those old Citizen songs were there for me at a time when my personal, like, my emotions were reflected in what they were singing about. Now that I'm happier than I was back then, it's fun that all those bands are doing the same. Same with like Movements, like that's a lot more upbeat and dancier, happier now, which is fun. Things are allowed to just be fun.
I'm the same with this one. This was a grower for me as well. The moment it kind of clicked for me was, ironically, listening to a Citizen song. I was driving alone in my car.
Dangerous.
This morning on the way to work, it was quite sunny. And and that song came on, and it just felt like a sunny drive song, just with like how upbeat it feels, the pretty catchy chorus. It's a sunny driving song, and that kind of moment I was in made me think, yeah, this is a good song, you know. Whereas before that was a bit like, yeah, it's a song, it's doing its thing, but I don't know if I vibe with that thing. And then in that circumstance I was in, I was like, yeah, this is a good song. I do vibe with this.
And also, something that we've said before is like a bunch of these bands like Citizen, Movements, Hot Mulligan, the fact that they're taking influence from like 2000s UK indie, specifically Block Party, which I say all the time, is so sick to me because I love Block Party so much, and I love that era of like proper British bottle of water music.
Oh, British music, mate.
So it's just cool that it's sort of like given a new interpretation by all of these American bands. I think that's really fun.
Beartooth are back anyway. Might Love Myself. Like you kind of mentioned earlier on, if you're a long-time Beartooth fan, you've been able to see the progression of Caleb in particular. You go from all the way back from Sick and Disgusting, Disease, where it's heavy as hell when you go into the content of it, Below, everything with there. And finally, since Riptide, we're kind of reaching this happy point. And I think, first of all, if you're a long-time fan, you have to be happy for Caleb. And similarly to what you were saying, Alex, with Citizen, I find that Beartooth are very relatable to kind of where I'm feeling at that time. And seeing that kind of like duality between it's lovely to have the way I'm feeling, seeing the music they're putting out and how that all is. It's just wholesome and lovely. And to see him, before getting into the music of it, to see him just in the music video, smiling, happy, dancing around, it's just lovely to see. It's just happy. I don't find it necessarily just the best Beartooth song, and it's been a grower for me in particular. And there are certain points that I'm like, oh, okay, it's going to get me eventually. But I will say that they do know how to bloody put a breakdown into a song, don't they?
It'll wedge one in there somehow.
Somehow it wedges in out of nowhere, and it's going to hit, and it's lovely. Always happy to have a new song from them.
I just think it's such a fun song. The chorus, everything about it, like the sort of ambient noises in the background, the sort of echoey bits, coming straight in with the lyrics, think I might love myself. You just know that it's going to be an uncharacteristically happy song. Although maybe this is something we need to get used to with Beartooth now. Like the previous two singles were also very, very positive and uplifting. And generally, I think this might be one of Beartooth's best songs, or at least it's one of my favourite Beartooth songs. Just because, not even because it's happy, but because it's still got everything that we like about the old Beartooth. It's still got a breakdown in there. It's still got a huge sing-along chorus. It's still riffy. And it just sort of takes them to not quite a new level, but new ground, I guess.
Something different we've not necessarily heard before.
And it's a bop.
Next up, we've got the next single from the upcoming album, The Noble Art of Self-Destruction. It's Scissors by Holding Absence. So for me, it kind of shows some great songwriting with it. They really know how to build to a chorus, and I think make it a great focal point of a song. With a lot of emotion conveyed, as you're always going to get with Holding Absence. I love the range that we get here with Lucas's vocals. There was that little teaser on social media beforehand, and seeing them embracing some of that kind of heavier side a bit more, bits that you kind of had teased maybe in No More Roses in particular from more recent sides. And then also I think they're working with that split with Alpha Wolf. You're kind of getting maybe some of that aggression, some of that heaviness, that other side out, which I'm not going to argue about. I absolutely love. The train keeps on rolling for me. I'm just so excited for this album. I've loved the singles. Seeing them live in the past couple of months at Slam Dunk and Trees just has got me bloody excited. And roll on August 25th. I can't say enough things.
I think this song feels like a good summary of like, if you put all their songs from the self-titled album and from The Greatest Mistake of My Life in a blender, it'd probably come out with something like this.
Yeah.
Like it's got the kind of grit and the kind of post-hardcore edge that the self-titled album has, but it's got the kind of craftedness.
Word.
It's a word now. and like the fine tuning that The Greatest Mistake of My Life had. Like the chorus on this song's massive. Some of the lyrical stuff in there is great. I'm desperate to be seen, I'm petrified of being perceived is like the lyric that like really stood out for me. My only disappointment, and I guess it's just like a stylistic thing, it felt like there should be a breakdown after that screaming section at the end.
Yeah.
And maybe if they did put it in, I'd be here saying, oh, it was a bit cliche for them to put a breakdown in, wasn't it? But it felt like it was building up to something and then it didn't, which again is maybe by choice, but it felt like it. I felt hyped up by Lucas's screaming, and I felt like I needed some way to kind of
kick down the door.
Yeah, get that kind of energy out there. But there you go, I enjoyed it still. And again, like compared to the other singles, it's probably the least single-like single.
Yeah, it does speak album track quite a little bit to
which
me.
isn't a criticism.
No.
But like the other three so far have kind of had something a bit more about them. Something that sort of, that song does this song does that.
And I think like Lucas has said recently, he very much thinks they're an album band.
Oh,
and
yeah,
when you kind of put everything in the grand scheme of it, it all makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably just a way of going, hey, there's some heavy stuff on this album as well. And take a look at this.
What will be very interesting is like when getting that album next month and having from start to finish, knowing the order of the songs, because I think sometimes that can impact how I perceive a song when I want to listen to an album from full. So very much intrigued for that. You can pretty much guarantee we'll be reviewing that next month. So next up, we got our boys Against the Sun from California with a new song Happy featuring Hoity Toity. What do you think, boys?
Well, it's not bloody happy, is it? It was miserable, but in a very good way. Well, yeah, what these boys do bloody well is they're unmistakably them every time, but every song is so unique, and it feels like every song, with every like new song, like the boundaries that Against the Sun are in are like pushed that little bit further, which is super exciting as a fan. We heard ballad style songs from them way back with It Should Have Been Raining, which is a banger as well. And this one is equally a banger. I absolutely love it. I thought the feature was brilliant and a really great sort of compliment to Brad's vocals.
Something I really like about Against the Sun is that every time I think I've got them pinned down and like I've figured out what they're doing, they do something else completely different. And this is a great example of that. They've gone, like their previous song was pretty damn heavy, probably one of the heaviest things they put out, and then they just switch it up again and go for this, which again is like an emotional ballad with a great feature, with great vocals complementing each other. The instrumentals as well just work brilliantly with the song. Just good stuff again, boys.
They're just such an incredibly amazing, versatile band that, we, like you say, we see another side to them every time another single comes out. Really love the songwriting. They play around with the timings beautifully. And like you say, with the complementing of Hoity Toity's vocals with Brad, I also think you get that later on in the track with the scream starting to add in. That adds another dynamic, another layer to it. And there's a gradual build that goes throughout the whole song that creates a whole nother dynamic and texture. I just very, very seamless. So another kind of absolutely banging track. They don't really miss, to be honest. Every song they put out seems to hit the nail on the head and kind of blows us away, to be honest. So, I mean, just keep doing what you're doing, and we'd love you to come over to the UK. Next up, we've got a Pollen Burning Body, who are back with An Insatiable Hunger. This is a band that we used to listen to quite a lot.
Religiously, I would say.
Still listen to like as new releases were coming out, but maybe not as much as we used to in particular. What do you think, Alex?
God, we are so back. It's unreal. I love it. We are so back. Everything is up. It's brilliant. What a time to be alive. This band, I feel, have been underrated for years. And I want to give them their flowers because this song is amazing. All of their releases are really good. I feel like every album is consistent, unique, but still unmistakably them. So that's me gushing about Upon a Burning Body just generally. But with this song in particular, heavy as fuck, which is awesome. I really like it when Danny Leal sort of explores his full range vocally, especially like with regards to like how he can scream, the different ways that he can scream, because it's not always something we hear. Like the style that we heard on The World Is Ours being on this song is chef's kiss. Riffs for days, sick as fuck. Again, like we said earlier, sometimes things can just be fun. This song is so sick. It's proper metal, and I like it.
I don't know how you feel with it. This to me feels like a culmination of like every Upon a Burning Body
Yes,
song
that's
written
exactly
to this
it.
date, and like this is who we are as a band, as if they're trying to introduce each other, introduce people to them.
Which I think is kind of timely because they're now an independent band. So it's like a reintroduction or like, a sort of, reminder maybe for people that have forgotten. And if you forgot, you're a fucking fool because they're sick.
I do feel like they sit so well between being a metalcore band and a deathcore band as well. They can hit both sides of that coin very, very well. And it's quite in the middle of that sweet spot. And like you say, Danny Leal's vocals have always been something that I've enjoyed listening to. I think, like you say, his range is absolutely fantastic. And to hear so much of that on just one track is amazing. This is a band who I've wanted to see again for the longest time. And they don't seem to tour into the UK that often.
Well, I think it's
really
a COVID. I think
them.
it's a hangover from COVID. The fact that they've not been back for a while. But if they're listening, please fucking God, will you tour in the UK?
Yes. Go on.
It also interesting to note they're now an independent band. Like I said, they had an Instagram live recently. They talked about potentially switching up their release sort of style going forward, which is something that we've heard other bands say in the industry. There feels like there's a bit of a very slow shift happening where traditional albums or traditional album cycles are potentially becoming a thing of the past. Bands are looking more towards like EPs or regular singles now. It's exciting that they're sort of looking at that new strategy now, because I think that is probably going to be the way forward for a lot of bands.
To close it all off, Upon a Burning Body are back, still fucking sick,
Still sick as fuck.
and keep releasing bangers and just fucking tour in the UK, please. I
Yeah.
beg.
Come on the podcast if you want. That'll be
Hey.
fun. Open invite.
To close it all off, we've got a brand new EP from a band that was formed this year. It's Better Lovers with God Made Me an Animal. We had heard 30 Under 13.
Yep.
That is the correct way. I
Yeah.
was making sure I had the numbers the correct way around. We heard 30 Under 13 earlier on this year. Absolutely loved it. Now we've got a 4-track. I absolutely love it. Do you guys absolutely love it?
Well, was there any fucking doubt?
No.
I mean, the lineup alone was made by the gods. I mean, Greg from Dillinger, three
of them for me too.
from Every Time I Die, and Will Putney, the man who quite literally can do no wrong as far as heavy music is concerned. So I just knew, this is going to be the EP of the year. And so far, it is. It's just flawless. It's everything that you expect, that amalgamation of artists and like what their previous work is. It's what you expect. And more, I think. And I was surprised, actually, particularly on the opening song, which I can't think of what the title is, how like melodic and how hook-filled it was. Because obviously 30 Under 13 is chaos, like relentless chaos. And a lot of the EP is the same. But like there are quite a lot of moments throughout this whole thing, particularly on that first track, that it was like pretty huge choruses and really like catchy moments. So fun. Yeah, so much fun.
From that, like across being a 4-track, each song to me really stood out on its own, but was a great cohesive group of songs. Which made it just an enjoyable listen to keep going back to again and again and again, because you're hearing such a great familiar sound. And one of the things in particular I think that I found across it as well was such a great complement between lead guitar licks and then with the vocal melodies and the vocal lines and the lyrics. There was such a great matchup between them, I think helped carry the songs perfectly through, with such an amazing production, like you say, from Will Putney. And I found that for such like a harsh vocal tone, the lyrics, you're able to pull them out straight away. It's not that sometimes you have to listen to songs a few times and kind of getting what they're saying a little bit, but not quite. I'm finding that on like first listens, I'm pulling out lyrics to the songs, I'm pulling out lines, choruses even. And by the time these are getting repeated later in the song, I'm there joining along, and that's on my first listen. So even then coming back to repeat listens afterwards, they've pulled me right in. I'm there, hook, line and sinker. This is 100% on my radar, and I've fucking loved it.
Yeah, I think my main takeaway from this was a point that Alex has already touched on, really, was it's a 4-track EP. They're a hardcore band. They could have easily just gone bam, we're going to go hard and heavy, 4 tracks, blitz through them. But they don't do that. There's moments where they are heavy and they are doing hardcore band stuff, but then there's the more melodic moments. There's choruses, there's hooks. So they kind of, even just on 4 tracks, they're knowing when to sort of give and when to sort of hold back a little bit as well, which I think is just perfect.
Here, I put this to you though. Which of the UK festivals would you think they are best suited for, or want to see them at next summer if they did a festival run?
All of them.
Yeah.
I think give us a couple more songs by the time we get round to it. Just picture scenes. Close your eyes, Alex, in particular. Think of we're going.
I'm going to close my eyes.
Close your eyes as well, Dan. But I know you'll be on the stage probably for this. One of the rare times potentially. Picture us going up to Manchester, going to Outbreak Festival. You have your gold wristband on. You've done your little check. You've signed the waiver, and Better Loves are about to come on. You're in that front pit area. You're getting on that stage.
Yeah.
See,
I can't wait. Sorry.
you got lost
We
there,
all
didn't
opened
you?
our eyes, had we? Sorry. Yes, I would
think
love
them
that
at
very
Outbreak would
muchly.
be fucking incredible and chaotic, carnage, and it would suit that festival to a T.
I think they'd suit Trees as well.
And I can see that.
I think that's quite treesy.
Easy trees.
Forest set.
Oh, that'd be carnage. I think they would be great at download though.
They'd be great anywhere.
They'd be great everywhere.
Just as long as there's somewhere where we are next year, I'll be happy.
I'm stressed about Outbreak next year. Do you want me to tell you for why?
Tell me.
Because the Friday of what well, obviously the Outbreak dates for next year aren't confirmed yet, but if they are what I think they'll be, the Friday is when I am
Snooker.
at Taylor Swift. So that'll fucking bum me
I
out.
thought you were going to say you were at the snooker.
No, I'm at the snooker in September. Semi-final. Front row. I'm gassed. Probably go earlier in the week
Oh,
as
yeah,
well.
that's during that Misery Loves Festival, isn't it? I think. I think you said you were doing something that weekend.
I've got to stop booking snooker at the same time as all these festivals. But I can't help myself.
He goes to his Ticketmaster app and he's just got...
It's like, fuck.
Oh.
Anyway.
Should we look at next month's releases?
Yes, tell us.
So next month we've got a few albums coming up. On August 4th we've got Skin Dread with Smile.
Yes.
On the 11th we've got Caskets with Reflections.
Yes.
Holding Absence with A Noble Art of Self-Destruction on the 25th of August. That is a great preemptive yes, Dan.
Yes.
Which album are you most looking forward to, guys?
Isn't Ruckus by Movements next month as well?
Yes.
Ruckus by Movements is also coming out August 18th as well. So what a fucking month.
That's a big, big month.
Now look, we know we're all excited for Holding Absence, so let's not even go there. Aside from that one, what are we excited for?
Holding Absence.
I'll tell you what, although they're a bit of a party band and a bit of a joke sometimes,
It's my same answer, I think.
those Skin Dread singles,
They're bops.
absolutely bang.
Give Me That Boom is so sick. I love that one.
This might be one of the first times where I'm just going to properly delve into a Skin Dread album. Because I've not done it before. I've like dipped in and out, listened to singles. And like, give them the credit. We always have given the credit of just them as a great live band. But maybe it is time to like properly give it a chance. Ali?
Yeah.
Ruckus for me. Movements. Singles are all brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. They sort of reinvent themselves a little bit with each album. Ever so slightly. So this should be very interesting to listen to. Good as well, probably.
So this is the gig talk section. We're not going to go into it too much depth, mostly because for one of them, we've had a whole recap. We've got a vlog out, and that's 2000 Trees. You can go and watch that all now. But in summary, very quickly, we had a wonderful time.
We did. We covered it all in a recap podcast as well. So you listen to that as also.
Easy Treesy has been the wording we've been going with for Trees this year, to sum it up, because it was just so easy. It felt like a holiday.
Do you want a truck?
Yeah, I went to Truck. Not too much to say about it. A bit of a different vibe to what we usually go to, obviously, but I still had a good time. Royal Blood, probably the band I enjoyed the most, and coincidentally, probably the heaviest band that were there as well. Some other great bands across the lineup as well. The Beths were really fun. Courting were great. Squid were quite interesting to watch as well. Really, really good fun. Again, it's just a nice sort of change of pace for me, not to be at a heavy festival or like a punk or emo festival for once, and see some kind of happier themed bands and a few indie bands and stuff. But yeah, had a good time. Some of the problems that I did have there last year were still prevalent this year. That main issue, if I remember rightly, being they didn't bother emptying the toilets. They also didn't do it this year, seemingly. And they've moved the arena entrance as well. It's still quite a small festival, so it's not too inconvenient, but it's moved from being round the side next to the campsite to being right at the bottom of the campsite. You've now got to walk pretty much in the wrong direction to then go back in the direction you've come from once you've entered the arena, which is a bit of a pain. But hey ho, it doesn't add too much time to your day.
It's a lot of confusion on Alex's
I'm
face.
It's because I'm trying to visualise it.
Just like to say thank you very much for a lot of lovely comments recently, especially on the 2000 Trees vlog. Some of you we had a lovely time meeting and saying hello to, so thank you for that. Always love chatting to people about music. So if you ever see us at a festival, at a gig, come and say hello. We'll talk tunes with you. And yeah, thank you very much for all the positive and kind words recently.
And usually we've got a bunch of stickers with us, so
yeah,
free stickers. Even if you don't want to talk to us, just go and like gesture with your hand, and then we'll put a sticker in it or something.
And we did have some t-shirts at the festivals. We did give a couple away. However, there will be a few more left over that will be going on sale soon. So keep an eye on social media, and maybe you can nab yourself a Ragamuffin t-shirt. Big discussion time then. We're halfway through the year. Usually, when we get to this point in the year, we start looking back at the halfway point. What albums have come out this year? What have we enjoyed? The projection kind of for the rest of the year. Are these albums going to be in our best of list at the end of the year? Are they getting any Ragamuffin awards? That's the important question.
That's a big question.
That's the award that all these artists, when they're in the studios making these albums, they're like, we want to win.
Grammys, Heavy Music
No,
Awards.
screw
Who
that.
gives a fuck? Yes, so today we're going to be looking back at the year so far and talking about our favourite albums, giving our top three, but crucially in no particular order, because I don't want to spoil.
We don't want to
what
spoil
our
the
favourite ones
awards
are so far. So we'll go around in the circle with the triangle. And James, do you want to go first?
Well, I think I'm going to start off with something. We may as well do it off the bat because it's going to be on all three of our lists, I would strongly believe. And that is Sleep Token with Take Me Back to Eden. Christ. I mean, go and listen to the review and you're going to hear some absolutely glowing, fantastic comments from us in particular. But it's been an album that I've definitely kept revisiting. That's going to be a key point with all the albums that we've talked about pretty much, that they're going to draw us back and we're going to go again and again. But I think this was so special. It was the culmination of what we have found as a trilogy with Sundowning and This Place Will Become Your Tomb. A great wrap up, almost with a story, some great kind of callbacks to previous songs, and some fantastic music. So, I mean, if you guys want to talk about it as well, surely.
It's just a brilliantly crafted album. Like everything that happens in there, even though it's I think it's just over an hour long or just under an hour long. Every detail is thought about and is there. It feels like with some kind of purpose. I've kind of taken a bit of a break from listening to it for a little while, partly because they've not been at any of the festivals we've been to this summer, and also just because I know I don't want to like over listen to it and overplay it. So I'm quite looking forward to the day when I finally go, yeah, let's put this album on in full and revisit it and take it all in all over again, because it's another one that listening to it for the first time, I was just in awe, just like paying attention to everything and wanting to take it all in. So I'm looking forward to sort of going through that again, I guess.
Yeah, I can't really add much more. Something about the first listen of this album was almost like childlike wonder. It honestly made me feel the same way like the first time I ever listened to the band The Sweet when I was 6 and I heard like guitar-based music and thought, this is incredible. Like my brain could almost couldn't comprehend what was going on. It was just so wild to me. And there was something about listening to this album the first time that I feel like I'm still chasing that dragon. Do you know what I mean? I'm still trying to like, and every time I listen to it, I still have those same goosebumps and all the same moments. But yeah, it was just almost a flawless album, I think. And I'm a defender of "Do You Wish That You Loved Me."
Oh, me too.
It's a good song, and I'm sick of seeing you Sleep Token stands on Twitter saying it's not. Sick of it. Oh god, now we're in trouble. Shouldn't have called them out. Dan, have you got another album you'd like to talk about?
I'd quite like to talk about Enter Shikari's A Kiss for the Whole World. Now, it's not a perfect album. It's not like the top of their like discography for me. It's a very short album, but I think the singles on the album especially absolutely bang. But for me, it's not just the album itself. It's kind of the connection with it and the story around it as well. Like, I've seen Enter Shikari 3 times this year, and we're only just halfway through the year. So I think this album cycle, plus kind of it's their first ever #1 album, plus the kind of the memories of seeing them twice on tour and then doing a absolutely massive headline set at Slam Dunk, one of the best times I've ever seen them, if not the best time. I think the memories of connecting with those songs off the album and like the cycle and the period of the that the album is in, just kind of elevates the meaning of it that bit more, and kind of puts it up there as a contender for me.
Oh, that's lovely. That's really lovely. I want to talk about a band that, let's be honest, we haven't shut up about since February. It's Graphic Nature. A Mind Waiting to Die is just an album that every time I listen, I've got a new favourite song or a new favourite breakdown or just a moment that stands out each time. And it's just such an exciting, the way that it mixes throwback and nostalgic elements of like new metal and like early 2000s metal with what's going on in like modern metalcore and modern heavy music at the moment. It just, all of those elements blend and mix perfectly, and it creates a sound that is unmistakably them, which for a debut album is paramount. Like, that's one of the most important things, I think. It's just sick as fuck, and we've had the absolute pleasure of seeing them live a bunch of times so far this year and last year as well, before the album. And they're like, we're literally seeing in real time, like the crowds get a bit bigger, the pits get a bit rowdier, the finger pointing's a bit more in the crowd. Like, the whirlwind that band is, especially live, is drawing more and more people in every time they step on that stage, and it's backed up by an absolutely fantastic album. So yeah, it's absolutely brilliant, and I think that's huge that a band's debut can be in the mix with one of the best albums of the year.
I don't think there's much more to add.
No,
I think
nailed it with that album, to be honest. Another one for me, Bury Tomorrow, back earlier this year. The Seventh Son being what I think is the pinnacle of their career so far. A band that have just grown and grown and grown with their hard work over the years and become such a great staple of the British metalcore scene. Becoming much more recognised, getting higher and higher on festival bills, which they deserve. And this now coming off the back of what I think is their best album from start to finish. There's such a diversity with it, with the new additions coming through. I think it adds another layer, another dynamic to the songwriting, much more diversity, and some just fantastic songwriting. Like some great tunes coming through there. I'm looking ahead to this tour with While She Sleeps. I can't wait to see Heretic live and see Loz come out for it. I think that's going to be something really special.
You bloody better do, I'll tell you.
It better happen. And I think it will. But no, it's just a fantastic album. As me, who's grown as a Bury Tomorrow fan in particular, probably over the last year and a bit, particularly after seeing them at Slam Dunk last year and just being excited before watching them play before While She Sleeps did. Ever since then, seeing the live performance, they had me by hold with it, absolutely taken aback by it, and it's just gone from strength to strength. And this is a fantastic album, and yeah, I love it.
You guys, we've all covered my top 3, so I'm going to chuck in Trophy Eyes with Suicide and Sunshine. It's just almost a God, what's the word? Definitive Trophy Eyes album. It's got aspects of everything they've done in the past, kind of just refined and reimagined and placed sort of in this album. Like there's touches on stuff from Chemical Miracle, which before this was probably my favourite Trophy Eyes album. In fact, I said when we reviewed it, they were kind of on a par for me. I think now that I've had more time with it, this new one is my favourite Trophy Eyes album. And yeah, to top Chemical Miracle, it's got to be something special, which this album absolutely is.
Yeah, I fully agree. That was going to be one that I was going to talk about as well. It's everything I love about this band. I think at their best, and I think the reason that it's also so profound for me is like when we heard in like the background of writing this album that they had planned for this to be their last one, and it comes across in the music that it's like this is if this is going to be it, we're going to throw everything we've ever loved about our music and the music that influences us onto the canvas, and it's resulted in just, I think, their absolute best music. And the great thing about it is it's like there's so many different moods touched on in this album, and like you can listen to the same song in two different moods and get two different things out of it. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of upbeat instrumentals that sort of in a way cover up the bleakness of some of the lyrics, if that makes sense. So it's like when you chuck it on in the background, it's like, this is fun.
It's almost
I'm
like they're
having a good time.
disguising depressing songs, emo songs, as like upbeat, happy radio rock songs.
And that's exactly it. And then when you want to really intently listen to it, then those things all sort of rush out of the music. So yeah, brilliant album.
Back in May, Veil of Maya came back with Mother, an album that I was very much looking forward to after a lot of singles were released in the past couple of years. They said that they had written an album, didn't deem it good enough to their standards and scrapped it, and then came back with this. And not knowing what that previous album was, I'm just going to say I'm happy with that, because what's happened here is Mother is a phenomenal album. They've kind of verged in and out of deathcore, then metalcore, going back and forth over their time recently. But I think in particular with this, you see such diversity with both of those genres being displayed. Lucas's kind of diversity, in particular with his vocals anyway, I think he is one of the most underrated vocalists in heavy music. He can cover both melodic, beautiful sung vocals and the heaviest of low growls all in one song, and it will not sound jarring or out of place in any way. A band that I've very much grown to love, one that have become big on my bucket list of leftover bands to see. I bloody love this album. And yeah, I think an album that I think has flown under the radar a little bit too much this year and deserves a bit more recognition.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Can I give a third? Because I was going to say Trophy Eyes. Well, I'm torn between two, so I'll give an honourable mention to Paramore for This Is Why, because it is fantastic. And I think it might be their best full album. Not my favourite. Settle down. My favourite's Riot.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But I think it might be their best.
Yeah.
But instead, what I want to talk about is Jesus Piece, with their album So Unknown. It was just incredible to see a band that I already loved, just take such a huge step. Only Self, which was their first album, I think their first album, or the album prior to this, was already brilliant, and I already loved it. But it feels like on So Unknown, everything was just a bit more refined and a bit more, I don't know, sort of carefully constructed. But even despite that, like, careful construction, it's still absolute chaos and like brutal, heavy, punishing at times. But it feels like, I guess, the aggression and anger is a bit more directed and focused. And also Aaron's vocals have just grown so much since Only Self as well. Like, the range and the way that he's using his voice is so much more varied now, which makes the album just that much more enjoyable. And I just thought it was super fun. And they're on my wish list. Like, there's a few bands still that we feel like we've got to tick off seeing them live. Jesus Piece are right up there for me.
Any more albums?
That might be it, I think.
That might be it. There's been bloody loads though this year, so
I bet we've missed something.
We've probably
missed quite a few.
I'm sure the people listening to this will let us know what we've missed by chucking a comment in and telling us.
You haven't talked about Muse's album.
Bugger that.
Fuck off. Wait, was that
Was last year?
That'll be why we haven't talked about it. Yes, I don't even delete that comment.
That's not the only reason we haven't talked about it.
But let us know down below what's your album of the year so far. What have you enjoyed? But then also leave a separate comment. What are you looking forward to? What's coming out in the back half of this year that you've seen is coming up that you can't wait to get your hands on?
Yeah,
Let
we've
us
got
know.
6 more bastard months of the year, so there's plenty of time for an album to swoop in.
Out of nowhere.
Take the number 1 spot. So nothing's settled. So make sure you come back for our awards at the end of the year.
Third
See if
annual
we're still
awards.
talking about these albums or if we're talking about a bunch of new ones.
Third award show.
Speaking of albums, is it time for album recommendations?
I think it is.
Segued like a pro. James, what would you like to recommend?
I would like to recommend The Mortal Coil by Polaris. Looking forward to Fatalism coming out on September the 1st in honour of Ryan Sue. It's a great album. I think people will end up listening to The Death of Me because it's the most recent one, which is a phenomenal album, don't get me wrong. I think we even reviewed it back in the day.
I think it may have been one of my first recommendations.
Yeah, I think it
might
was.
well have been. Yeah, I absolutely love The Mortal Coil as well. It's a fantastic album. It's been a good one for me in the gym as well in particular. It's very hyped. Some absolutely banging tunes on it, so give that a spin.
Dan, a recommendation?
As we've been talking about potential albums of the year, or well, our favourite albums of the year so far at least, I'm going to recommend one that I think will be on a lot of people's album of the year list by the end of the year. It's Life Under the Gun by Military Gun. It's one that's kind of passed us by a little bit. It's kind of a hardcore album, kind of punky, but a lot of fun nonetheless. And Post Malone's a big fan of it as well, so it must be pretty good, right?
What I usually like to do is get absolutely obsessed with a band and then recommend them and hope that you guys get obsessed as well. And so that's what I'm going to do again. I'm going to recommend an EP, and it is Gang Called Speed by the band Speed. This is 13 minutes of sick as fuck Australian hardcore. I love this band. They played Outbreak this year, and all the videos looked rowdy. Once again, I weep at night that we didn't go to Outbreak. But listening to this album is my way of trying to make up for that.
Do you know who else loves the band Speed?
Posty.
Post Malone.
Post Malone. Post Malone, if you're listening to this, I'm begging you, pick a band, Speed, Drain, Military Gun, Scowl. I don't care. Pick a hardcore band and make a collab. Please. Well, we come to the end of another happy episode. It's been an absolute blast.
You sounded so happy there.
Huh?
You sounded so depressed about
Did
it.
I? Sorry. We come to the end of another happy episode.
Woo!
Now it's just insincere.
It's been so fun. Fuck off. It's been very fun to look back at the year we've had so far. And God, we're spoiled. We're spoiled rotten with all this good music. Once again, we want to hear what your favourite album of the year so far is in the comments. Please, God, tell us. That sounded sarcastic, but it's not. I actually want to know. Festival season is winding down for us. We've only got Burn It Down round the corner, but that's a month away yet. So while we're all waiting, go and watch our vlogs from Slam Dunk Download and 2000 Trees. We've got recap podcasts for each of those as well. If you
and
want to hear
Takedown.
And Takedown. Oh, God, that was...
Don't forget that.
That was brilliant. So many vlogs, so many recap podcasts so that you can immediately finish the vlog and go, I wonder what these guys thought of their experience about a week later. Don't
It's
worry.
there. It's there.
That exact need has been filled with our recap podcasts. We do this podcast every month where we talk about the latest news, music and trends. We also have an interview series called A Perfect Gig where we have a bunch of guests come on, tell us their dream 4-band gig from opener to headliner. We've got an episode coming very soon. Almost imminent, I could say, at the time of release. Should I say who it is?
Yeah,
That'd be
say
fun.
who it is.
It's Seething Akira.
Ooh.
They're playing they're opening
Saturday.
the main stage at Saturday at
Big
Bloodstock,
spot.
which is huge for them.
Mm-hmm.
Super
Sheesh.
excited. Unfortunately, we can't be there. But if you're going to Bloodstock, you should watch that band. Seething Akira, they were lovely, weren't they, James?
Yeah. Lovely group of guys. Some great, different perfect gigs as well. 3 of them. 3 very different ones. But very interesting to the insight of the band and drawing upon their different influences in order to get their own unique sound. So very much enjoyable. There'll be a Bloodstock preview as well for that. And for a new one, if you are an independent band, if you listen to an independent band that you think deserves some recognition, get them to drop us a DM on Instagram, send us an email via the email in the description. Kind of a new series in the works. I don't know what to say.
We want to give a spotlight to some independent, up-and-coming bands, new bands.
Yeah.
So send in some submissions. Come on.
Subscribe. Fuck's sake. If you're not subscribed,
Fuck's sake.
Yeah.
subscribe. Just press that
You.
button. It's
Wrong
there.
with you?
You've made it this fucking far on podcast 31. You're going to comment. You're going to tell us what your favourite album was so far. And you're going to tell us what you're looking forward to this year. You're then going to press the subscribe button. And you're then going to go back and watch all the footage from this festival season. Because you want to.
And if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts thinking, what the fuck is it? I can't do any of that.
Go
what
to
you
YouTube.
can do is just hit follow and leave a 5-star review. That would be absolutely wonderful. And that's about it. That's the end of the episode.
That's all you have to do.
Once again, we're the Ragamuffins. We started this as a place for us to talk about the music we love. We want you to get involved as well. So drop an album rec in the comments. Tell us what you've loved from this year. Or maybe start an argument. I don't care. But get involved. Join the conversation. And we'll see you next month.
Kiss, kiss.
Love you, bye.